All right, so this is my classroom worm bin. It is not very big, as you can see by the scale of my hands. It's just one of those plastic shoe boxes. Now, one important thing is I have an unmodified bin underneath the actual compost bin. And you can see I've cut multiple holes in the bottom, okay? That is because, well, the worms inside are going to generate moisture. Decomposition is going to generate a little bit of moisture. Also, every 2 weeks or so, I have to add just a tiny bit of water because the worms and the decomposition need moisture. But I don't want so much moisture that the worms drown. So I have to have these holes to allow the liquid to flow through. That's called leachate. The leachate can also be collected and used in the garden. Okay. There's also some holes around the top for airflow, and there are holes in the lid for airflow. Now, the other thing I did for airflow is I have some superchargers in here. So I have these straws and I poked holes through them. The idea is that since air can go into the hollow straw, it can go through those holes and get to the compost around the straw, which means there's more oxygen for the bacteria that are breaking things down. This is an aerobic system. Aerobic means that it uses oxygen. Now, if you've ever had compost and it was very wet and very stinky, that was an anaerobic situation. There was no oxygen, and a different set of bacteria take over at that point, and they tend to be stinky. So we don't want that. So we're not going to add a lot of moisture to this in general. Now, the way I started this was I layered coffee grounds and shredded paper. That's why you see the shredded paper. After a few weeks of letting it kind of sit and grow some bacteria, I did kind of move everything over to one side, and I added some compost from home. That's how the worms got in here. Okay. I don't know. I can probably find you a worm. Of course. Now, worms do not like light, and so they might be a little harder to find. Might just have to cut this part out. All right. And what I do to add the straws is I just make a hole with my finger or something, and then I just kind of tuck it back in around that. All right. And then that's the basic idea. We want oxygen to get in here. About once a week, it would be a good idea to kind of stir this up a little bit. Just the easiest thing to do with one of this size is I have a bucket. I kind of dump everything gently into the bucket, and then I put it back in. And that, again, is getting air in there so there can be oxygen. Okay. This doesn't seem to be going all the way down. Or maybe the straw's just too long. All right. But we'll keep an eye on this and see how it decomposes.